people who change the world.
That's the leadership that we could really have.
What's up, Disrupt Nation? Today is September 3rd, 2024, and this is Trending Topics. So, a lot has happened in the last few weeks. A lot has changed, and the world we know has basically been flipped upside down. Politically, economically, and in more ways than one. So we're going to dive into it. First and foremost, Joe Biden dropped out of the race and Kamala Harris took his place. And essentially the Democrat Party admitted what we knew all along, what we've known for 4+ years, that Joe Biden is not fit for office, that Joe Biden is not running the country, and that in fact oligarchs and puppets are running the country. The deep state, the swamp, the permanent government, the corporate cronies, whatever you want to call them. There's a lot of people that are running the government. There's a lot of people that are pulling the strings behind the scenes, but it definitely was not Joe Biden. And it didn't take much then to look at one of his speeches to tell that he's a puppet, that he's been playing a part, and he has become so mentally incapacitated that he can't even read the lines off of the script that is written for him. So Trump got shot, and when Trump got shot, his support exploded. I think he raised like $100 million in 48 hours. And, even people that maybe were on the fence or potentially not supporting him or 50-50, seeing a former president almost executed, I think definitely woke the country up, right? So you saw people like RFK, right? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. getting on the phone with Trump in the last 48 hours after the assassination attempt. You saw a bunch of endorsements, right? And there was a bunch of momentum behind Trump, right? The debate between President Trump and Biden, it was hard to watch. I'll be honest. I was watching the real debate version simultaneously with Robert Kennedy Jr., just wishing and wondering why wasn't RFK on the stage with the two other candidates. But Kennedy's performance aside, the mainstream media's streamed version of the debate, it was terrible. And honestly, it was terrible on both sides. There was bickering, there was name calling, there wasn't a lot of solutions, right? Trump was stuck defending himself because essentially he's debating not only Joe Biden, but he's also debating the moderators, right? So he's has two against one, or really 3 against 1, right? You had both moderators plus Joe Biden. But even then, even with all the rules bent in debating, the mics being muted and no live audience and all the cards stacked against Trump, it was clear to everyone that Trump still won, and he almost won by default because it was clear to the world that Joe Biden is mentally incapacitated and he's not fit to be the president of a poker club, let alone president of the country, president of one of the biggest countries in the world, right? So that, and then the assassination attempt had so much momentum behind Trump. Like I said, a bunch of celebrity endorsements came out, a lot of support, a lot of people who were probably quiet supporters, right? They call the silent minority. A lot of them came out the woodwork and endorsed Trump and showed their support for the president, for the former president of the United States, President Donald Trump. And then they decided, okay, Biden is hopeless. and there's no chance that Biden is going to win. So we're going to pull a switcheroo. And we kind of knew that they had this switcheroo in mind all along. I mean, immediately after the debate, the mainstream media talking points were that Biden should drop out. And CNN, who is always defending Biden, right? Every debate, where a lot of times I didn't think Biden has ever won a debate, but they were always taking his side in their commentary. But this time it was different. This time they were not taking his side. They were saying that it was sad that he should drop out, that he's not there, that it was a bad performance. So even CNN could not pretend either that or the fix was in all along, and they knew that they were going to use this debate as an excuse to force him to drop out. But then, interestingly enough, you saw the power struggle, right? You saw Joe Biden putting out press releases, emails, and statements and tweets saying, I'm not dropping out, I'm not dropping out, I'm not dropping out. And then the fake COVID scare. I don't know how many times they've said Biden has gotten COVID. He must, he must be invincible at this point. I didn't know you could get COVID more than once, but apparently you can when you're the president and they want to psyop the country into doing whatever they want. But then we have the tweet, I'm sick. Viral tweet, I'm sick. And then they ask for $20, right? Because that's what all these politicians do. They take all that attention and they try to get money from the American people to fund these political campaigns. And when they saw that the funding was drying up, everybody in the party was urging Joe Biden to step down. And he's putting out press releases. I'm not dropping out. I'm not dropping out. And then we get the press release that he's dropping out and he's getting replaced with Kamala. And now we're acting like Kamala is the second coming of Obama, right? These are the comparisons that are being made, and they're being made very intentionally, right? She took the stage with a tan suit during the Democratic National Convention, right? Trying to embody the viral President Obama tan suit. And it is clear that they are acting like she's going to be the first black woman president. But the funny thing is, in reality, right? In reality, she had never presented herself as an African American. And in fact, she, on many, many occasions, when she was representative in California, was mentioned that she was the first Indian candidate, right? So she was Indian up until it was politically convenient to essentially change her race. Now, some people are saying that she is half African American and half Indian, that she's half Jamaican and half Indian. But then others are saying that even on her Jamaican side, that her father is, in fact, also Indian. It's just that he immigrated to Jamaica. And this is the funny thing. I mean, especially with Latin America, living in Puerto Rico, I experienced this a lot. You'll have people who are from Puerto Rico and they're Puerto Rican, but in fact, their family's from the Middle East, or their family's from Russia, or they're Jewish, right? You'll have all these different races, and they move to Puerto Rico, and maybe they've only been in Puerto Rico for one generation, right? Now, does that make them black because they lived in Puerto Rico? I don't know. Definitely makes them Puerto Rican, right? And if Kamala Harris was born and raised in Jamaica, I would say, yeah, well, she's definitely Jamaican, right? If she was born and raised in Puerto Rico, I would say, yeah, no, she's definitely Puerto Rican because her parents were born there and she was born there. So, yeah, eventually, after a few generations, just like when you're born in America, right? If you're born in America and your parents are born in America, you're American, right? But that's not the story of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was born in California in the suburbs. Kamala Harris has gone viral many times for pretending to listen to hip hop, saying that Tupac is the best rapper alive, right? And when the interviewer figured out that it was a gaffe and that Tupac is not in fact alive, so he cannot be the best rapper alive. She asked him for a different rapper. Can you name a rapper who is alive? And she couldn't name one, right? So she likes to play this game that she's cool and she's down and she's hip and she's urban. And there's all these videos of her putting on these different accents depending on where she is. When she's in Atlanta, she puts on a black accent. When she's in Detroit, she puts a Midwest accent. When she's in the suburbs, she puts on a white accent. And for anyone who's paying attention, it is obvious that she's a chameleon. It is obvious that she's a fake politician. It is obvious that she is not genuine and that none of her ideas are her own. Right? And a lot of the ideas she has are very scary. They're very communist. One of the policies positions that she came out with on the campaign trail, right? Because she actually doesn't have a policy position page on her website, so we don't really know what her policies are. But on the campaign trail, she spoke about, hey, if the food is too expensive in the grocery store, we're going to do price controls. Yeah, these grocery stores are so greedy. We're going to put price controls on the food in the stores. Now, again, to the average American who's not informed about geopolitics, that might sound like a great idea. Yeah, those greedy grocery stores, let's force them to lower the price. But that's not actually the cause of inflation. The cause of inflation is all the money printing for all the foreign wars that we have in the United States. So the prices in the grocery store are just a reflection. It's the effect. It's the cause and the effect. The cause are the wars. The effect are prices going up everywhere. And it's not just grocery stores. The cost of gasoline is high. The cost of an automobile is high. The cost of real estate is high. The cost of rent. So it's everything across the board. It's not like the grocery stores are somehow greedy. But Kamala Harris put this genius policy idea forward nonetheless, and that is what's done in communist countries like Venezuela. And what that does is, when you put price controls onto a store and a store cannot sell something at a profit, then they just won't sell it. And then you end up with food shortages. And this happens in Cuba, it happens in Venezuela, and it happens in communist countries. And it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea for the government to come in and try to regulate private businesses, right? What we should be doing is spending less money. What we should be doing is to stop funding wars, right? Stop sending billions of dollars to Israel and the Ukraine. Stop sending them weapons of mass destruction. We love to talk about weapons of mass destruction, but the number one producer of WMDs is the United States, and we export them. It's one of our number one exports is all these weapons to all these foreign nations to fight wars against brown people. So if she was really a social justice warrior like she wants to pretend, then she would be standing against war. But she's not. She is, in fact, a puppet, right? And she's also trying to distance herself from Bidenomics. She's trying to distance herself from the last 4 years of this administration. She's trying to claim that she's going to fix all of the problems that have occurred in our economy and in our world. She's going to get us out of World War III. But day one was 3.5 years ago. Day one is not today. Day one is not the day she gets elected. Day one was 3.5 years ago when her and Joe Biden walked into the Oval Office. Joe Biden was mentally incapacitated. And it was her as second in command who was running this country. So the fact that she wants to distance herself and pretend like all of these policy decisions were all on Joe Biden. I mean, again, anyone who's paying attention knows that Joe Biden was not running the country, and he has now even admitted it by dropping out of the race, by not running for re-election, by stepping down and saying, I'm not fit for office. He is admitting that the last 4 years, all the speculation that we had about his competence or lack of competence to run the country were in fact correct, right? And we're creeping step by step closer to communism, closer to censorship, closer to a totalitarian state. It really all started in COVID, where social media started censoring people. Censoring the sitting president of the United States was censored off of all social media platforms. I mean, if that doesn't give you chills down your throat, who is running the country? If the president can be censored, well, it's in fact the people doing the censoring. And Mark Zuckerberg came out this week and said that he regrets allowing the Biden administration to put pressure on him to censor people, right? Now, there's a lot of things Mark Zuckerberg has done that I don't agree with, but the fact that even he is coming out and saying, yes, we've been censoring people. Yes, the government is requesting that we censor people. I mean, this is what happens in Venezuela and other third world countries. This is not what's supposed to happen in the United States, where we're supposed to have freedom of speech, right? And without freedom of speech, then everything else is going to fall apart. And it was many of these reasons and more that caused RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy, who me and my company, Latino Wall Street, have been working very closely with. And these were the reasons that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. endorsed President Donald Trump this past week. Because he knows that if we get another 8 years of Democrat policies, right? Because Kamala Harris isn't going in for 4 years, right? Even if President Trump gets reelected, he's only going to be reelected for 4 more years, right? Because of term limits. He's already served 4 years. He can only do 4 more. But Kamala can be in there for 8. And we've already had 4 years of communist Democrat policies with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris pulling the puppet strings. So we in fact know that 12 years of these policies are going to lead to more censorship and more shenanigans and more attacks on our freedom and more inflation and more war, right? President Donald Trump, love him or hate him, first president to keep us out of war. First president to actually end his office in peace times. In probably the last, I don't know, since I can remember, 20 years or more. Since I was a kid, I don't remember us having that much peace in the Middle East and overseas and internationally. He got us out of all the wars. He had the Middle East sign a peace deal. So he had mean tweets, but world peace. He was strong. He was a jerk. He was hot-headed on Twitter. He would threaten other countries on Twitter, right? He threatened North Korea. But then he flew over there. First president to do that in decades. He flew over to North Korea and he met with Kim Jong-un. And then there wasn't war. He actually de-escalated the situation. He used strength and diplomacy to de-escalate situations. So sometimes being passive-aggressive and just sending money, sending billions of dollars and sending weapons is not always the best solution. And that's what this administration has done. They've sent billions and billions of dollars every month. Every few months, they're passing another stimulus bill for war. They send the American people a $1,400 check, and they send billions and billions of dollars to the Middle East, to Ukraine and Israel, to fund these foreign wars that are none of our business. None of our business. Venezuela's none of our business. Brazil's none of our business. Ukraine's none of our business. Israel's none of our... These are not our countries. This is not the country that you pay taxes to. The money that you pay in taxes should be going to your roads, your bridges, your travel and transportation, your school systems for your kids, should not be going to foreign wars in other countries to blow up people and blow up kids that you've never met for wars that you don't even understand why they're happening. And that's America First. Those are the American First policies that I think the average American wants, whether they're on the left or the right. The average American does not want us in war. The average American wants to see our country, quote unquote, become great again. Now, they might not like that slogan. Some people may be triggered by that slogan because they've been programmed by the mainstream media to think that slogan is somehow racist. But that's what the average American wants. They want to see their communities thrive. They want to see their children thrive. They don't want America to become Venezuela, right? Especially Latinos, right? That's the funny thing. Latinos are one of the fastest growing demographics in the United States. We are, in fact, Americans, Latin America. We are American through and through. And Latinos come here to chase the American dream, right? They leave places like Venezuela and Cuba to escape the economy there, to escape the censorship there, to escape those communist and socialist policies, right? And many of them come here, quote unquote, the right way. Many of them come here by getting a visa and getting a passport and a green card and going through that whole process and then getting citizenship, waiting the necessary number of years, paying the lawyers, paying the legal fees and the administration and the application fees and studying for their test and then eventually becoming U.S. citizens and then paying their taxes, right? That's the average Latino American who comes and immigrates to this country for a better life. For a better life than the one that they left. But now, unfortunately, we have the gangs and the cartels who are flooding across the border, right? So the average Latino came here to escape the cartels and the gangs and the bad people in their home countries. So they understand more than anyone else that the border needs to be closed. That this crime wave that's been seeping into mainstream cities in California, New York, and elsewhere is going to damage and destroy our country. And our democracy is under attack. Our democracy is under attack. And we just had a huge upset in Venezuela with their election. And some people are saying that Venezuela's election was stolen. And we're talking about going into Venezuela now and removing the sitting president. They just confiscated one of his private planes in the Dominican Republic. Now, I'm no fan of Maduro, but I definitely don't think the CIA or the American industrial complex should be going into any country in Latin America and getting involved with their politics. And this is the thing, we have to be cautious. We have to be cautious not to get scapegoated into foreign interventionist wars. Because there's always a reason. There's always a good reason, a good cause, a reason that they try to knee-jerk and get a reaction out of us and say, yeah, the U.S. should go over there. We need a third war. We need a fourth war. We need a fifth war. We should send troops. We should send weapons. But know this, whatever the mainstream media is pushing, try for a second to have a second opinion. Okay? I'm going to give you an example when it comes to Venezuela. Maduro and Venezuela in general, they do not want to privatize their natural resources. Why does the United States have sanctions against Venezuela for years? Because Venezuela does not want to sell its oil reserves to Exxon and BP and all the other private companies. They don't want globalization. They don't want their natural resources being sold on the stock market and traded as commodities to the highest bidder. And they reject the petrodollar, which is the United States dollar being backed up by oil. So they reject all that. They want their country to become richer from their country's natural resources. Now, again, I don't agree with everything that Maduro says, but that's not unheard of. That's not an unreasonable request to want your country to be enriched by its own natural resources rather than selling it to the highest bidder to American and European-owned companies that are in other countries, right? As soon as Exxon gets in there, as soon as BP gets in there, as soon as these big oil refineries from the United States get in there, now all the wealth starts trickling back to the United States. So if I was the leader of Venezuela, I might not want that either. But now we have Elon Musk supporting the opposition party in Venezuela. Why is Elon Musk getting involved in Latin American politics? Why is Elon Musk involved in Brazil and Venezuela and all these Latin American countries trying to influence their elections? I'm sorry, Elon Musk is not Venezuelan. Elon Musk is not Brazilian. He should not be involved in these countries' politics, and he should not be trying to influence their elections. And just the same way how Americans don't want TikTok influencing our elections, Americans don't want TikTok because it's owned by China. We don't want China influencing our elections or influencing our people and our young people. Countries in Latin America do not want American companies influencing them, American social media companies influencing and censoring and manipulating the populace and the public. So Brazil this week and also Venezuela a few weeks prior have both put in bans on American social media companies like Twitter and X. Venezuela also put a ban on Meta-owned companies like WhatsApp. And they've enforced very, very, very strict laws, rules, and regulations around this. And, those are the tools that government has. And again, I'm not necessarily supporting Maduro, but imagine when you have social media companies that are more powerful than the sitting president, right? We saw it happen in our own country. We saw them deplatform and ban the sitting president of the United States of America. Strongest country in the world. Social media is more powerful. So I can't necessarily blame these countries in Latin America for wanting to put a ban to American-controlled social media, because it's a slippery slope, right? Does Elon Musk understand the politics in Latin America? I don't know. I don't think so. And either way, I don't think his opinion should matter because he's not Venezuelan and he's not Brazilian. So a Brazilian court this week introduced a ban on the company formerly known as Twitter. Venezuela did the same a few weeks back. And it is getting to be a scary place because it seems like free speech is under attack everywhere that we look. Additionally, Telegram, the CEO of Telegram, was arrested in France this week. France is charging the CEO of Telegram with every crime that's happened on Telegram. So imagine that. Every single drug that's been sold, every single prostitution, and all the other illegal things that happen in private Telegram conversations. The French government seems to be attempting to hold the CEO accountable for what's happening on their platform. Now, I don't know if they're going to be successful in this. It looks like the CEO was finally released on bail, but this is setting a very, very, very scary precedent because we have foreign countries trying to reach in and hold social media companies accountable. And then vice versa, we have social media companies who are trying to influence elections all around the world, right? And we don't have all the facts on a lot of these different issues. There is a mainstream narrative that gets pushed, but I promise you that things are not black and white. Things are not always what they seem. And again, it's a slippery slope, because when you support censorship on the president you don't like, right? If you hate Donald Trump, you support the censorship on the president you don't like. Eventually, they're going to censor you, right? Eventually, they're going to censor the president you do like. Eventually, they're going to censor your family. So it is a slippery slope. And the last breaking news that I want to touch on, and we're going to be doing these trending topics every week, where we just go through what's going on in the world, give you my insights and a little bit different perspective than the mainstream narrative. The last thing that I want to touch on is President Donald Trump is going to be sentenced in a court on September 18th on 34 felony counts of, quote, falsifying business records. He's being charged with, quote, falsifying business records for classifying an NDA payment as a legal expense. Now, that's literally a QuickBooks accounting error. So to call that a felony is a really, really scary thing. They obviously want to put him in jail. My unfortunate prediction, and I do not want this to happen, but my unfortunate prediction is that they will arrest the President of the United States on September 18th to prevent him from running for re-election. It's just too convenient. They've tried to charge him so many times with so many trumped up conspiracy theory fake charges. They finally got a local New York court to comply. They will obviously take this up on appeal. But the photo op that they want and the opportunity that they want is to just prevent him from re-election. They don't care if this gets thrown out in appeal. They do not care if, honestly, they don't really even care if he's in jail or not. They just don't want him to run for re-election. And all of these charges, nothing has stopped him. Nothing has scared him. He was even shot, and it didn't stop him or scare him. And now it looks like they're just going to put him in jail. September 18th, a New York judge who is Democrat funded is going to be sentencing Donald Trump. He can face up to 3 years, potentially more. And what I think they're going to do is, I don't think they're going to give him 3 years. I think they'll give him 3 months. And they'll say, hey, we could have gave you 3 years. We're just going to give you 3 months. So, we're the good guys. But how convenient is that? 3 months and the election will be over. And Donald Trump will be in jail for the election. So he can't run. He's out of the running. And there you go. You've now successfully stolen the American election. So that is my sad, scary prediction for this election cycle. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope people like RFK's endorsement and Tulsi Gabbard, the former vice chair of the DNC, right? 2 prominent Democrats, the most famous Democrat name, Kennedy, and Tulsi Gabbard, Army, U.S. veteran, and former vice chair of the DNC, crossing over to create this unity party. I hope they come together like Voltron, like the Avengers, and I hope they take out the deep state. That is my hope. I hope they get all the corruption out of politics like they promised that they're going to. But unfortunately, my more pessimistic prediction, and I predicted Joe Biden was going to drop out. It's on my Instagram. Everyone called me crazy. Everyone called me crazy when I said Joe Biden was going to drop out. I have all the comments, all the receipts, Everyone called me a conspiracy theory, a right wing, a Trump nut. It's so funny. Whenever I talk bad about a Democrat, people start talking about Trump. I'm like, I'm not even talking about Trump. I'm talking about how the Democrats are corrupt. And all of a sudden, you guys are bringing up Trump. What does Trump have to do with the Democrats being full of it? When Trump's full of it, I'm not scared to call him out. But that is my prediction, is that unfortunately Donald Trump will be sentenced to a short amount of prison time, just enough to keep him out of the Democrat race. And then we're well on our way to becoming Venezuela, if we're not there already. That's it. That's all I got for you guys. This has been Trending Topics. Be sure to tune in next week to see if my predictions are correct. And let me know what you guys want me to cover. Shoot me a message on Instagram at Tony Delgado. Make sure that you subscribe at LatinoCapitalist.com. Subscribe to the newsletter so that you get notified when we drop bonus episodes and free exclusive private content. And make sure that you stay woke. Make sure that you don't let the media think for you. And I'll see you in the next episode.
What's up, Disrupt Nation? Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found value from this video, I want to ask you for a favor. I want you to hit the like button, but more important than that, I want you to hit share, and I want you to send this video to a friend, a family member, a business partner, and share the value with other people. And if you have any questions for me, please drop them in the comment section below. I do my best to answer all questions personally. And make sure that you smack the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you get notified next time we drop a new video. All right, I'll see you in the next one.